Well, I guess we've done a fair bit of communicating about managed aquifer recharge. People might say that this product has been oversold. But I guess from the uptake, we've got to look very seriously at the uptake, considering the investment in research that various organisations have made over a number of years. Is the uptake warranting the investment in the research, and where do we go from here? So, first of all, I acknowledge a number of organisations. The International Association of Hydrogeologists has played a major role in communicating. International Water Association, NCGRT through its workshops, the National Water Commission through its water lines publications, the AWA has helped with, and along with SIA and HYDSOC, with promotion of workshops and running of seminars on managed aquifer recharge. So there's been a lot of information going out, but it's a good time to take stock and say, well, is this information effective in causing change for the better? Are we communicating the right way? Are we actually reaching the people that need to be reached? Andy Roberts is looking at me because the last one up there is the WIA MAR Hub, and this is something that's very new and very exciting, and I'll say something about that at the end. Okay, I guess in respect to the investors in the Marsuo and Marrow projects, the two projects looking at stormwater options and recycling options using MAR. We've got a number of deliverables to hit. Basically by April 2014, the stormwater project comes to a close. There's a number of deliverables to be produced. I talked about some of the remaining reports, and there's a stack of journal publications that we're actively working on at the moment. The importance of journal publications is, if you want to have some scientific credibility, you've got to have peer-reviewed material that will pass the test. If you don't have firm foundations, all the reports in the world won't crack it. You know, they can be descriptive. They might be well targeted to people that are users, but unless there's a foundation that you can rely on, and that's why we put a fair bit of effort into journal papers. With the Marrow project, that project comes to an end early next year, and so the deliverables for that will be coming out late this year, early next year, and there's a number of communication elements within that, including on the experiences and economics of these infiltration type systems for wastewater or for sewage, treated sewage effluent infiltration. Okay, so there'll be a workshop in May. We'll have each aspect of the Marsuo project covered in that, and there'll also be either Ashok or David Pezzaniti representing the WSUD project, the Water Sensitive Urban Design project we heard about earlier, in that to demonstrate to folk what the real potential is for stormwater harvesting. And it's a national one, and being promoted by not just the NCGRT, but Stormwater Industry Association, HYDSOC and AWA have all agreed to help promote that, and IAG. There's another workshop coming in October. There's a Stormwater Industry Association National Conference in Adelaide. We're just negotiating about how we might be able to cover our costs for dealing with that, because the Marsuo project will be finished by then. But that's a communication opportunity that's in front of us, and they're requesting a one-day workshop. There's a few other things coming up in August and September, international conferences that are really well. One's really targeted on MAR, it's a biennial symposium, and the other is an IH Congress where there's an opportunity to present our results in an international forum. I think you could say we've been fairly influential in the international space, but probably we're wanting to get more runs on the board in the national space. And of course, the AWA have a water recycling special interest group, and I think our role can be to contribute to this current debate, where John Radcliffe had an article in the last AWA Journal of Water on direct potable reuse, and we can be re-emphasising the value of aquifers for storage. So we're not wanting to take away people to hide behind aquifers to say, well, that potable reuse is unsafe, but there's additional safety in aquifer storage, but the storage value is actually the greatest value adding of these schemes. The Marrow project, a lot of material will be coming out next year. Is particularly focused on non-potable uses, agricultural development. There's opportunities in Northern Australia and inland areas. We don't really have the links established to be able to demonstrate the applicability of SAT over the broad scale or infiltration galleries at this stage. I guess the work on clogging is really very important to that, to the economics. I refer to Russell Martin's document, which has been published on the IHMAR website. It's on management of clogging in managed aquifer recharge. And I guess what we would hope is that some of that, in addition to the journal papers, there'll be papers that will be produced which might get added to Russell's expandable document on the website, so it's internationally available. We have to be moving more rapidly on anammox and the denitrification processes. Both Joanne and Don have talked about nitrate leaching beneath these sites. And unless we can get on top of that, we know that in many sites we're getting 65 to 90% removal of nitrogen, and it's primarily the anammox activities in those sites, but we haven't yet made the links. That research has to be advanced further to be able to be confident we can get those in removals, both from the point of view of ecosystem protection as well as drinking water protection. And certainly in the area of pathogen removal, we have to make more progress there. As Saeed's question indicated, we think there are very significant opportunities there to reduce costs of treatments if we can provide a validation framework for aquifer removal processes. So I guess that's the next target we've got in our sights, but we need vehicles in which to get there. Okay, and I think the Trade Coast area, you can see the communications that are going to take place out of that, and the very close links with the industry partners in that project. The communications are going to flow, and the involvement of state government will help with the policy development. But it needs a good science base, and that's what that project is about, to help push that forward. So future so these are things that we can see that would help with the development of these existing goiter and AWRCOE projects. There's a lot of opportunity not yet taken up and not yet covered in the projects. I guess the saline intrusion barrier Don has referred to. It's time we had a bank filtration project in Australia. It's been proven elsewhere, but we don't have any demonstrations in Australia that are monitored, so you can rely on the treatment processes and sort of build up confidence of utilities. And I'm sure that will result in savings in water treatment processes around the country, especially in the regional communities. Picking up, where the wastewater treatments are across the country and looking at the potential for managed aquifer recharge in those areas. There was an early document by SKM that sort of picked out a number of opportunities around the country, but there hasn't been a broad-scale view of all of the wastewater treatment operations and looking at the aquifers in there and the demands for water and how they can be balanced so that we can get optimal use out of the water that's currently not being productively used for either environmental or economic purposes. Governance arrangements for water supplies into cities, we really, and to promote economic selection of sources, I guess we've seen through the guidelines, through the report that Steve Parsons here from SKM in the front row produced 2 years ago, that a number of states have picked up the reins, and you can congratulate Western Australia and Victoria for uptake of the guidelines, both of the protection of human health and the environment, but also the policy side. They've made advances in those areas. In fact, within 12 months of the reports that we did for NWC being produced on policy framework, Victoria and Western Australia had taken them up and they were in regulation. The rest of the country is lagging behind, and I'm afraid to say that South Australia is one of those states that hasn't picked that up, and I'd be interested to see from people that are proponents of projects here whether that's a detriment or is this an imaginary or a real barrier. Implementation and planning for the future. We really need to get this R&D support to assess viability underway, and I don't know. I think the people who need to hear those messages have heard them, but maybe they can't do anything about them.
Peter, would you be able to get onto the hub now?
Sure. Okay, so these are the two courses this year. Managed aquifer recharge, re-injection of coal seam gas associated water, industry-based approach to managed aquifer recharge. So the IAH does an awful lot, including working groups, and I've talked about Russell's document on clogging. Lot of action in this space, and thanks very much to National Water Commission for their sorts of information sources. So the hub is the South Australia has been a leader in research and application of managed aquifer recharge. You can see it with stormwater out in front. Got off to an early start with recycled water. Now overtaken by Western Australia. I'd love this horse race to continue and to have more states involved to make better use of our resources. The knowledge base that's available here in South Australia is second to none in this country and I think worldwide. It does represent a significant opportunity for business development, and the Water Industry Alliance also believes this and has established a special interest group in managed aquifer recharge called MAR Hub. Maybe if there's an opportunity for Andy to talk to that would be terrific. But essentially, what we've got is a group of consultants, people that have been involved in projects, from the groundwater side, from the surface water modelling side, from the treatment side, biofiltration, reticulation, so forth, and from an urban water planning perspective. It takes a lot of elements to come together, and the packaging of those elements is something that Water Industry Alliance is doing by getting the private sector together, and can we bid for projects as an entity together and develop the industry and build on the reputation that's been established in South Australia, turn it to productive impact in terms of revenue to this state and to this country. So I'll finish with that. Thanks.